All right, so we're going to go into the next level of hatching. What we've talked about so far is, just some basically creating some simple hatch borders. And again, if I turn my hatch layer off right now, you're going to see that everything goes away. Um, my hatch borders should have stayed there, and I don't know what happened, but maybe I didn't. Maybe I'll do this again, turn them on, and they should be there. Um, so again, the hatch borders were the things that allowed me to go ahead and isolate these areas, this area versus this area versus this area, and everything else. And I do think that's like a good best practice. So um, at this point now, I'm thinking about wall textures. Um, and I've already pre-drawn a construction line over here, and I'll show you why I did it. But I'm looking at this house and I'm thinking to myself, well, this part of my house kind of bumps out. If I go back to a floor plan, you can see right here, the part of that house that I'm talking about is right here, and it bumps out. So I'm thinking like, well, maybe in this area, maybe in this area, and like maybe the whole house should be brick, but maybe this bump out should be sided or something. Um, so that's a good way to kind of think about things. And what I'm going to do, I'm on the hatch layer up here, as you can see. Um, I don't really need to draw a hatch boundary because everything else is boundaried. If I turn off hatch, turn current layer off, everything else does have a boundary around it. Even though these are wall layers right here, it does have a boundary around it, and because these are block layers, it also has its own boundary. So I'll turn my hatch back on, and what I'm thinking about is brick in this area, and brick in this area, and then maybe siding right up here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do brick, and I'm going to go hatch. I'm on my hatch layer, as you can see, and you got to scroll through a little bit until you find something that you think looks like brick in a current pattern, or whatever. And I say, okay, well, maybe this is the pattern. And, 0.3 is the last scale. So I come back up here to my editor. That's the last scale I used. So if I click that, that might be a little bit crowded. So maybe I select this and I say, okay, 0.5, and see what that does. Is that more realistic? I don't know. Again, this is not architectural. It is, this isn't giving anyone a. I didn't want to do that either. Um, Point 4 though looks good, but this is not giving anyone a a blueprint of what to do. It's just giving somebody else a like a homeowner a perspective of what they would see when they look at this. So I click this and I say, okay, 0.3, that looks like subway tile. Okay, what if I say 0.6? That looks almost like cinder block to me. So I click it again and I say, all right, what about 0.4? That's kind of right there. What about 0.5? Still looking a little bit big. Maybe that's pretty close. 0.4 seemed to. What about 0.45? That to me is really starting to look a lot like brick. So I say, okay, 0.45, close, and you might be ready to just go ahead and jump into here. I'm just hovering over it to create that hatch pattern, but I don't want to. The reason I don't want to is I might want to change this later to something else. And this is going to associate this area with this area, which means that once I click this area, if I hatch this at the same time, it's going to identify them as the same object. So I'm just going to go ahead and click close. And now I'm pretty satisfied about the look of this. So I'm going to go ahead and do it one more time. Hatch. Again, a lot of times it defaults to the last pattern you used, and usually it defaults to the last size or scale you used. So I can click this. Okay, does this look like this? Yep, it does. Cool. I'm done. All right. So that looks nice, right? We've got some brick now. And now I want to think about here, and I was thinking about siding as a pattern. I will tell you in AutoCAD, there are no really good, even when you scroll through these, you're going to see some things that look like horizontal lines. I'll give this all the time too, where kids will just like click this. That is not a good hatch pattern at all. That it's like you would not see that on a house, but I guarantee I'll see it every semester. And what you do want to do is, again, think about realism. So I'm going to cruise down and I'm going to see if I can find something that looks like a horizontal. Oh, there's a horizontal pattern, but it's dashed. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. No, we don't want some kind of fade or anything else. But okay, so here's one. And I've always been tempted to use this because it looks correct. And I'll tell you what, it is not correct. There's big, just like this has dashes and dots, and this does. This is just a bigger version. So what I've found is actually, if you go all the way to the top, if you're trying to do horizontal siding, the one that works best to me is this one. ANSI 131 if you're doing siding, okay? And if you click in here, that looks completely ridiculous. It does not look like siding at all because the scale is 0.450. And so this is a perfect scenario. This is kind of what I was hoping for, was to say, well, what happens if you type in 1, right? So I just typed in 1 and it did not change it at all. So I'm going to go up a whole bunch and I'm going to type in 10 on the scale. Okay, so now it changed it a good bit. What if I type in 30 on the scale? Now it's starting to change quite a bit. Obviously, you would want to do this with some rhyme or reason, right? Like you do want to know what these laps are in the siding, but I'm also just kind of ballparking it. So there's 55, and this does not look good because I'm not going to lay siding this way. But here's the cool thing: up here under angle, I can just click here, and I can type in 45. Well, hopefully I can. Click it, 45. Oh, that didn't work. So now let's type in 90. Oh, that didn't work. Let's type in something between 135. Now it made a nice horizontal siding. Is that the lap that we're looking for? I don't know. Again, now we can go back to scale and change it. Let's say if we say 50, how's that look? I'm kind of satisfied. Again, this isn't showing us like we're going to give the person building this house the exact thing that they have to do to build this house in the exact way that they have to build this house. Okay. But I do want you to come back to the next video because what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this exact same thing, the exact same kind of pattern. But what I'm going to do is change it just a little bit, kind of like right in here, okay? And that's the whole reason for construction lines. So the next video will be very short, but it's going to be the exact same thing as this, exact same thing as this. And so because I'm doing that, I could literally just make a copy of this and stick this line right onto this. And that's what I'm going to do in the next video.